Hey there, this is Mr. Icarus, and welcome to yet another edition of Doom Mod Madness. This time round, we are checking out a mod by the name of the Doom Slayer Chronicles. This is a mod that's been on my radar for a while. It's been on the radar of many, it seems, considering all the messages I received when it officially released. But one of the main things that I'm sure caught many people's attention when it came to this mod was just how nice it looked. In screenshots, it looked pretty nice. In motion, it stands up to scrutiny. This is one handsome looking mod. We've got high-res textures all over the shop, we've got fancy lighting, we've even got nice visual effects in the form of the fog drifting through this tomb here. But the one thing that really surprises me the most about the Doom Slayer Chronicles is that it's actually an invasion mod. That is not what I was expecting at all. In fact, I was expecting a mod that was going to be some sort of story-driven campaign, but no. Here we are instead, fending off successive waves of enemies until our job is done, and we then get to return to the hub area, go somewhere new, and do it all over again. For those of you out there that aren't familiar with the invasion mode concept, I'd say that the other mod that comes to mind that does a similar thing would be Stronghold. In that case, you travel to varying levels through portals and did pretty much what you're doing here, fend off successive waves of enemies, but that was more base defense, whereas this is more just taking out the trash, making your way around the level, which opens up more and more between waves, and just staying alive and making sure everything else stays dead. I really wish I could elaborate more on it, but it really is that simple. The most complicated thing you'll be doing here in the Doom Slayer Chronicles is remembering to top up your ammunition, which can be done through specific pickups that will give you a little bit of a random drop every now and again, and hopefully for the weapon you're actually using. You'll also be able to replenish your health through various health hearts scattered throughout the levels, and these respawn at regular intervals, meaning that theoretically you shouldn't have an issue with running dry. Now, I said shouldn't have an issue, and it turns out at certain points it does become an issue. So the way the pickups work here is it doesn't really spawn the ammo type until you run across the ammo pickup itself, and it draws from a pool of what weapons you currently have. If it's a simple situation where you're just mainlining a shotgun and a chain gun, then you've only got two different ammo pools to choose from. It's not too much of a problem. However, when your arsenal starts to expand, including, rocket launchers, plasma guns, all of the ammo types, and all of the variations in between, such as clips and ammo boxes, you'll find that the ammo spawning can actually be really unreliable. It's an element of RNG that I neither needed nor wanted in a game type such as this. I would have much rather preferred standard fixed pickups where I know exactly where the chain gun ammo is going to spawn, or at least have the opportunity to learn it. Have these fixed pickups on certain points around the map, and now you've got an incentive to figure out the best possible route around this oncoming horde of enemies, rather than crossing your fingers and hoping the right kind of ammo actually turns up. It's something that made this section right here tremendously frustrating to deal with. All I wanted was some shotgun ammo to spawn so I could deal with the mancubi, but for the life of me, it just wouldn't turn up. I only had 3 weapons to choose from. I had the pistol, the shotgun, and the super shotgun. The pistol had max ammo, and by all rights, at that point, the mod should be like, I guess I don't need to spawn pistol drops anymore. I think we need a refill on that shotgun side. But no, it just took forever and turned it into far more of a grind than it needed to be, and that's just not very fun. On a more positive note, however, the area that this section takes place within is quite possibly my favorite area in the entire mod. This is called the Crimson Depths, and it's characterized chiefly by the fact that it takes place over an ocean of blood where Cthulhu tentacles strike at the goddamn sky. How is that not the coolest shit? And what makes it even cooler is the fact that at certain points you can trigger a drop in the sea level, and what that does is actually reveal more of the area for you to play through. Again, how is that not the coolest shit? But it's stuff like this across the entirety of the Doom Slayer Chronicles that makes me just sit down and go, that's pretty freaking impressive. That is a tremendous amount of care and detail and attention paid to the environments that you'll be making your way through. And it goes further than just how it looks and how it flows. There's also flavor text totems that you can interact with at certain points that will actually give you some backstory on the history of the area or how it just flat out came to be. This is really one of the biggest things that keep me playing in the Doom Slayer Chronicles, because the visuals are friggin' off the hook. There's just so much stuff going on and so much sightseeing to be done that it almost makes it worth putting up with the interminable waves of enemies. You'll note that I used the word almost, and the real trouble with the Doom Slayer Chronicles is that it's kind of poorly paced. Just to give you a little bit of perspective on how long you'll be playing this, the first part of it consists of, I think, 47 waves at last count. And when you move on to the second part, which is like the second hub of the mod itself, you'll be dealing with a total of 100 plus waves. That's a number that resets from 0, by the way, so cumulatively, you're going to be playing through at least 150 waves of this. Now, this wouldn't be such a problem if the core gameplay here was intriguing enough to sustain it for that length of time, but the truth is, it isn't. It's far too simple for its own good. It is you against vanilla enemies with vanilla weapons in typically a fairly open space. But with the number of waves you're dealing with, you'll be spending quite a lot of time in the same sections of level, to such a degree where quite often I was sick of the sight of the places, no matter how interestingly they were designed or how pretty they looked. By the end of those waves, when I was finally free of them, all I could think was, thank fuck for that. That's not to say that Doom Slayer Chronicles doesn't attempt to vary up its formula every now and again, it's just that those attempts do occur at really sparse intervals. For example, at the end of the first part, you have to rescue the Saints, and that involves freeing them from their cages and then escorting them to a central chamber where they can then ascend and escape. So yeah, it's pretty much an escort quest, and whether or not the Saint actually makes it out will depend on how dumb the AI is feeling that day, but for the most part, it seems to work. The other bit of variation that comes to mind is something that happens really late on in the mod, where you need to keep picking up oxygen canisters to keep yourself alive in exposed Martian atmosphere. And in concept, that's a neat idea. Adds a little bit of tension to the proceedings, makes you get a little bit of a rush on to kill everything before you run out of time, but the canisters are never really in short supply. The respawn is actually pretty generous, and it really just boils down to another thing you're going to have to go pick up alongside health and ammunition during the course of a battle. While I'm at this particular point, I might as well mention how climactic sections of areas tend to devolve into Archvile-based bullshit, this one in particular proving to be a source of tremendous frustration, and the core of that is down to the fact that enemies don't spawn in a predictable order. Depending on the attempt, you'll have a few different things popping up first, and in some of these attempts, I shit you not, I was dealing with 3 Archviles just spawning simultaneously and ruining any chance I had of surviving the 300-second timer. And when you get down to it, this particular level, this particular section, really isn't built for Archvile encounters. There's not a lot of opportunities to break line of sight, and at a certain point you'll be wading through so many corpses that you'll be struggling to actually spot where the Archvile, or most other enemies for that matter, actually are. It's this kind of stuff that will seriously test your patience throughout the entirety of Doom Slayer Chronicles. It just gets to the point where you're waiting for it to end, and the end never comes. And I understand that's somewhat of a themic thing that's running throughout the Doom Slayer Chronicles. It's supposed to be some kind of an account of the Doom Slayer's time endlessly fighting against hell, but you don't have to push the players to the point of exhaustion to get that point across. I mean, if you cast your eyes upwards, you'll see a progression percentage at the top of the HUD. It currently says 106% progress. I don't know about you, but that's not how it's supposed to work. 100% is supposed to mean done, that you've done one entirety of something. But no, it just keeps going, and that's the biggest problem with the Doom Slayer Chronicles. It just doesn't know when to friggin' quit. Despite going on for an eternity, this mod does in fact have an ending. I know because I actually reached it, and it sticks in the mind because it actually bugged out on me. The demons that were supposed to come out of this hellhole just refused to, forcing me instead to engage NoClip and get in there and make something happen myself. To be honest, at this point, I wasn't even sure that I was anywhere near close to the ending, because during the course of this entire mod, I'd fought Cyberdemons and Spider Masterminds multiple times, so this, believe it or not, wasn't anything new. In any case, I was long past the point of caring at this point. You'll notice that I'm not taking damage because I'd long since engaged IDGAF, and I was just happy to see something a little different happening, because if you can tell by the corpses outside here, this section goes on for far too goddamn long. So, despite this mod comprehensively breaking my will, would I still recommend Doom Slayer Chronicles? Well, really, it depends what you're in it for. If you're in it to go on a bit of a sightseeing tour, then Doom Slayer Chronicles has you covered. It is a visual and technical marvel. There are some extremely cool things going on within this mod, and I just wish it was in service of a better core gameplay loop, because in all honesty, it gets real old real quick. There's definitely room for them to expand on the core gameplay though. They have some sort of rudimentary perk system in place, so for example, if you kill a set number of enemies, you'll go up in rank and that'll unlock a passive ability. And at the moment, these generally consist of having a chance to get extra health when you're in a critical state, having ammo immediately respawn at the start of a new wave, or even having a chance to become invisible, invincible, or just stop time so you can wail on enemies while they're frozen in place. Now, personally, I'd love to see some active abilities, things that you could trigger yourself and give you a little bit more tactical control of what's happening in any given wave. For example, an active ability could be a shockwave that pushes enemies back, gives you a bit more breathing room if things are getting a little too hectic in your corner of the map. But yeah, this is ultimately a kind of mod where I feel like the core gameplay could do with a heck of a lot more meat on its bones. So there you go, that was Doom Slayer Chronicles version 1, and if you're interested to give this a whirl for yourself, you'll find the link, as usual, in the description below. While I'm at it, I'd like to give a great big thank you to my wonderful patrons over on Patreon. Thank you so very much for supporting the channel and for helping to make content like this possible. If you're interested in lending a hand yourself, maybe you'd like to see your name in the credits, or maybe you'd like to gain access to early editions of my videos before everyone else, well, if that's the case, you'll find the link to my Patreon page also in the description below. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Feel free to let me know what you thought in the comments, and feel free to suggest any mods you'd like to see me cover in future episodes of Doom Mod Madness. This has been Mr. Icarus. Thank you very much for watching. Icarus out.